thing and be happy. Okay, nigga? It's like, nah, let me chill. I don't know if I can start off that rash.
Tossed and turned a good bit because after I got home from work yesterday,
You will own
got
nothing.
the news that Sony is, as of 2028, not going to be making physical video games anymore.
And that's fucked up. Okay, bro, that's so messed up. You know how much games cost on the Sony market? One of my first videos on this YouTube channel was Nintendo is greedy. And I just was going on a rant about how much the games was costing because they were saying they was about to release $80 games. I was pissed about the $80 games. But now they talking about forcing you to buy games from the digital marketplace. And from those of you that are on the outside looking in, if you don't play video games, see, you probably like, who cares? You just gotta buy it from the marketplace or whatever. But no, it's really it's messed up because on the marketplace they dictate the prices. They have a very firm price. Like on the marketplace, none of the games that are like franchise games that they deem of quality, they will not go on sale. Whereas in real life, you could get those games on sale for $15 to $30 or something like that. It's messed up. It's heinous.
And I think that news made me a little bit more sad and a little
And
more
that's not even
scared
all.
than
They could
I
take your
expected.
licenses away too,
Sad
bro.
because I kind of realized all at once
And if you
that
piss them off,
one,
they could
for
take away your
future
account.
releases on the PS6 and 7 that are happening as my
Why
son
you
is
looking at me
growing
like
up,
that?
we're not going to have the experience of being able to go out and buy those at Target or Walmart or a toy store or whatever. Thank goodness that, local stores like this exist. And it also just made me sad thinking about how, for my whole life, physical PlayStation games have been coming out with big releases, and that when it comes to that dynamic, we just don't have that much time left. And it made me scared as a video game business owner because it threw into even
Hey,
myself,
relax,
did
Mozart, relax.
Sony just seal the fate of my video
Alright,
game
relax.
business? Is there any hope left for physical media? And as I was wrestling with all of this, I started writing all of my thoughts down and decided to just share it with you guys because uh, the folks that watch this channel, a lot of you have video game businesses, a lot of you found me through my collecting series, and you guys are my people. So it just felt right. And what I ended up coming up with was, first, I want to acknowledge all of the scary negative things and just be brutally honest with you guys about that. I want to then give you guys a few positive aspects that might be refreshing, particularly in this conversation this week. I'm going to share with you one hard hitting, brutal truth that I think other video game business people need to recognize. And then I'm going to end on 5 pieces of advice that I hope are helpful to someone out there in this week, especially that feels really chaotic. And I think this news hit me a little bit harder than it normally would have because it's coming at a time when, to me, it kind of feels like it's harder than ever for regular people to get ahead. Don't get me wrong, I feel incredibly lucky, like the business has been doing well. Erica and I are in a really good position, but as I think about,
If they really were to like to eliminate physical games, if we're being honest, things like this will probably shoot up in price with the way the booster market has been going with scalpers and all of that. Like, bro, these type of stuff is gonna you're gonna see Sims 2 going for $100 from PlayStation 2. And pirating is gonna come back harder than crack, man. I'm gonna be honest with you.
the world that I'm raising my son in, and I realized that, like, man, housing has never been more expensive. Healthcare has never been more expensive. Education's never been more expensive. Groceries, eating out, you name it. This feels like just another thing added to the stack that is going to make it harder for regular folks to just live like normal people. Like when you spend 60 bucks on whatever the PS6 version of Midnight Club 3 is going to be, and then 10 years later when the server shuts down you have to spend 60 bucks again, and you can't even take your original copy to a place like quick flips to get some trade value. Like, I don't know, that it just sucks.
And sadly, one of these days, it probably is going to end up like that. When our generation is long and gone, when we don't have the voice to stand up to these people no more because we won't be here, it's probably gonna be like that when the youngsters that grew up already having Facebook, already having downloadable MP3 players or like iPods or not even iPods, just straight to iPhones and stuff like that. Like they don't know them days when you could only have like 20 apps on your iPhone, about 50 pictures. They don't know nothing about that. They don't when it was just an iPod. They don't know, bro. Where you had to burn disk and rip files and put it onto the iPod. You had to go to jailbroken sites, jailbreak sites for music. The good old days. Let me chill up.
I think for me, the announcement was a bit of a reminder of how little we all truly control. I think as a small business guy, especially, I like to retain the illusion that I am primarily in charge of my own destiny. But the reality is, there are just a lot of factors that are beyond our control that can make that journey harder. Now, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you might realize that that level of negativity is very uncommon for me. In general, the way that I run this channel is entirely fueled by optimism and hope. For as long as I have been on this platform, my mantra has been opportunity is everywhere, and that is where we're going to land this plane. But if my channel, if my presence online is remembered for anything at all, I want it to be honesty. And so I wanted to be honest with you guys that my initial reaction to this news was just that I was really sad. But true to form, after I wallowed for a little bit, the next place that my mind went was, are there any refreshing positives to this whole situation that might be a little bit under-discussed? And the first thing that I do think bears mentioning is just a reminder that we all knew this was coming. This has been the general direction that physical media of all forms, for example, these Blu-rays here, that physical media of all kinds has been taking for the last, you could even say decades. I also sort of had to check myself and remind myself that 2028 is not the date that all sales of physical PlayStation games from history stop. It's just when they stop making new ones. And the reality, at least for our store, is that a lot of our top selling games are 10, 15, 20, even 30 years old. So these games may have a lifespan of 10, 20, even 30 years.
Deep down, he know if they do this, those games will shoot up in price. If you see the heinous stuff GameStop is already pulling off, or like Pokemon cards and stuff like that, I think they know they could pull off some real trick baggery. Like they could get deep in their bag with this little act right here. Okay, they got Pokemon cards that just released months ago, going for double the price at GameStops. They're going to have a ball with this shit.
Continue to be bought and sold in physical
You gonna
form.
see
And
$2
on an
2Ks
even
going
more
for
positive note than that, I
$25
would not be at all
now.
surprised if we start to
2K14.
see a counter movement away from digital ownership and back towards games exactly like these that businesses like ours already special in and have an abundance of. It wouldn't surprise me at all if especially PS5 and PS4 games in the next couple years and beyond actually see a pretty solid surge in value as an increasing number of collectors decide, you know what, I think PS5 is where I'm going to stop on my PlayStation journey because I'm just the kind of person that likes to own my games physically. After all, you could.
Bro, I seen a video of some dude. He literally put the PS5 through a garbage disposal, like a shredder of some sort. Like he teared it up into pieces. These people not playing, Sony. Y'all done messed up with that tweet. Sony dropped a tweet. They said they gonna take away all physical games, and now you done pissed off your customers.
probably pick any one of the PlayStation console libraries and have enough good games to play for the rest of your entire life. Let alone if you include PS1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not like there aren't enough good games out there that any of us hasn't tried yet to keep us busy for the rest of our lives. Now, who knows? Maybe I'm being overly optimistic and this is all just cope. But so far, we have not seen anything but a trend towards higher and higher dissatisfaction with the idea of
That's
digital-only
thunder,
ownership
nigga.
as more and more eShops and PlayStation stores for various previous consoles close and people realize, oh man, this save file that I just put 250 hours into is now
You heard
gone
that?
and I can't do anything about it. I think that set of people that's really upset with that reality is not likely to shrink over time, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least some movement from people who have kind of gone half and half in the past to say, you know what, actually going forward, I kind of want all the games that I play from now on as much as possible to be physically owned on actual hardware so that they don't just get randomly ripped away from me. The other very real reason for hope I think we can cling to
Should have
is,
drunk some
even though
fucking
at this
coffee.
point both Microsoft and Sony are going entirely digital, Nintendo has a history of kind of going against the norm when it comes to console trends. Like you guys remember when Sony and Microsoft were just fighting tooth and nail to have the most powerful console with the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and then Nintendo put out the Wii, and this little underpowered
Bro, the Wii was legendary. Oh my gosh. I remember when the Wii first came out, like I was like 6 years old or some shit like that. And it was like around the same time the PS3 came out. And like he just said, and like my brother had took me to the store, my mom and shit. And then my brother was telling me, he was like, yeah, bro, just get the PS3. We're gonna share it, this, that, and the third. Bro, I looked at him. I was like, man, I'm about to get this Wii. I don't want that. I want to play Smash Bros. What are you talking about? But looking back on it, I should have just got the PS3. That's one of my biggest regrets in life. I'm not gonna lie, was to look bro in the eyes and tell him no. I'm about to get this Wii, because it didn't hit the same. As soon as I got a little smarter and I started using YouTube a little more and I started seeing the games that you could play on PS3, I really like just had a whole bunch of crow on my face or something. I was eating crow.
angle with weird controllers ended up being
I
the
still
best
enjoyed
selling
the Wii
console
though.
of all
It
time
was
at
fun.
that point. Actually, did it outsell the PS2? I think they're close. Or even as recently as the Nintendo Switch's release. Like in 2017, nobody had seen anything like this bad boy. So I don't think it's overly optimistic of me to say that I would not be at all surprised if we end up seeing multiple more generations of physical games released from Nintendo, which would definitely help for people in this business. But even if they don't,
The Switch 2 began endless slack. I ain't gonna lie, I was even giving them slack. But now that I've had it for like a year now, I'm gonna be honest. The Switch 2 is better than, it's the best system out right now. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that. The games, the first party games, Nintendo, y'all have been slacking. Your first party games pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. What y'all did to Pokemon was egregious. Um, you guys have the most money. What y'all did to Pokemon is disgusting. I'ma forever stand on that shit. But look, but besides that, if you use the Switch 2 like now, bro, like what they did with Resident Evil, Requiem, you could play games like Resident Evil Requiem, The Witcher 2, and like The Witcher 3, and like GTA San Andreas, all types of good third party games, Resident Evil, and it's not that bad. I'm not gonna lie, it actually moves pretty fluidly. The graphics are pretty good. Final Fantasy runs pretty good on that thing, man. And like you could take it on the go. It's something you could play and not be too serious. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta be too serious. It's chill. But PS5, I don't know. I had an Xbox. I had a PS5 too. I got rid of the PS5 because you couldn't put a wallpaper on it. I didn't feel like it was mine. Like you gotta put the wallpaper Sony wants on there. I don't like that. So then I got an Xbox, and I don't even play the Xbox anymore. It just collect dust. But I play the Switch too, cause they got Pokemon Fire Red on there, and they got GTA San Andreas, and I could play it on the go. You know what I'm saying? You could play it while you're watching a movie or some shit. I don't play that long, bro. I play like 30 minutes to an hour max. Like I couldn't care
Fellow
to
video
hook up the
game
TV,
business
get all in
owners
tune.
specifically, I
When
think it's
GTA 6
important
come
that we
out
take a
though,
breath and remember we have
I'm gonna be
time.
on that motherfucker.
Demand for this
I'm gonna be
setup
on the
has been
TV,
steady for the
locked
last,
in.
in GameCube's case, what, 20 years
All
or
this other
so?
bullshit though,
It's not
I
going
don't
to
care.
go anywhere overnight. And I do even think there is a realistic possibility that for some of the more recent consoles like the PS4, we could see a small increase in demand and values, at least in the short term. So now that the pendulum has swung, and we've talked
think I
about
said
the initial negative reaction to this news, and we've talked about, in a lot of ways, the more balanced,
See,
positive.
look at that. Look how much they charging for them Pokemon cards, bro. This is man. 164, 234, 174, 349, 282. Bro, that's I know he happy as shit. If they really do this, he's finna be a millionaire. What? This dude will be a millionaire. I'm telling you right now. He already got the Pokemon cards already set up. He got these old ass Nintendo whatever games, 64, Super Nintendo. The prices he could start selling these games for will be egregious. They will be heinous. There will be things we've never seen before. They will be talked about for literally like hundreds of years after this day. If it gets to that point, I know it.
Aspects of this change happening. This is maybe a little bit high. That's kind of better. But what is the brutal truth that I think video game business owners need to recognize? It's that at the end of the day, physical video games are a sunset industry. Now, what does that mean? It means that while, yes, we might see little fluctuations in values and demands here and there over time, the general trend of the value and the demand of these items is going to be gradually downward. Now you might say, Caleb, how the heck could you possibly know that? And I would say, well, in addition to recent news, which confirms a more general trend that we're all aware of, I would say just take a look at history. Look at what's behind me right here, the Nintendo NES. This console's games reached peak value and popularity not now in 2026, but probably back in, I don't know, 2012 to 2018, as the demographic that originally enjoyed them first started having discretionary income with which they could go purchase these more expensive and rare and sought after games that they were most nostalgic for. But now in 2026, these games don't sell like they used to. Some values have gone down, and actually, this is
I guess I was wrong.
one of the lower performing cases in my whole store. It doesn't do as well as Super Nintendo, doesn't do as well as Nintendo 64, and definitely doesn't do as well as something like Switch or even the Nintendo Wii. These games all have a natural life cycle that rises and falls alongside the people that originally enjoyed them as kids. And if it's true that more and more kids today are buying and playing their games digitally, and they don't have
Gang, what's
affinities
good,
for the
gang?
physical versions of these things, they don't have memories of going to Toys R Us like I did and being able to pick out a game.
Toys R Us was legendary. Back in the day, in Toys R Us, bro, I remember going to Toys R Us and like when you would leave out for a toy, there would be a checkout line, right? Duh, every store has a checkout line, I know, right? But when you got to the checkout line, they'd have so many Pokemon cards. They'd have sleeves of blue wrapped Pokemon cards wrapped in this blue foil, right? And they would never be sold out. Ever. I promise you. In 2005, 2006, you'd see the most Pokemon cards. I never bought them shits. I never bought them. I'm gonna be honest with you, cause I used to think they was like kind of dorky. But like, bro, they would never sell out. Now you can't find them in the stores. It's hilarious.
See the artwork on the shelf or pick up a guide and figure out some secrets.
And I played
If it's true
Pokemon.
that
I
by
just
and
wasn't
large
about to be
today a
on the
lot more
cards.
kids are playing Roblox and Fortnite, then future generations won't
You got
have
that
the
Hunter
same
x Hunter.
nostalgic demand, even for a console like the Nintendo Switch or Switch 2, as much
Trigun.
as I hate to say it. Now, folks, I don't have a
What y'all
crystal
know about
ball.
that Trigun?
I've only been doing this for 7 years, so by all means, don't listen to me. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But I do think that video game related small business owners will benefit and will be well served by having a mentality that, look, the trends in physical video game sales are not necessarily likely to reverse in coming years. I think most of us would recognize that the writing is on the wall and it is likely to get harder rather than easier to do what we are doing. So the question becomes, okay, what do we do about it? So I went ahead and made a list of 5 pieces of advice that I would give.
He already doing something. He's selling Pokemon cards. He hopped in the collectibles. I mean, he's doing something. The prices of these physical copies, he's saying he doesn't see them changing. I think it's gonna go up though. I think every single console from the Super Nintendo, Nintendo DS to Wii is gonna go up. Cause look, unless I mean everybody could pirate. I'm not gonna lie, pirating is gonna go sky high too. But not everybody wants to pirate. And the thing about these games, bro, they're not being printed anymore. You know what I'm saying? They're not being produced anymore. So there's a finite amount of them. And these games can break. So that means the quantity of these games is depleting by the day. So, who knows? I give it like a 50-50 chance, though. I don't think it's just straight up downward trend. I can't give it that. I just can't. If they really were to take away physical media, I just can't. Mm-mm. We're gonna see bootlegging happening right again.
Earlier on in their journey than I am. This all comes with the massive caveat of do not listen to me. I'm just a 31-year-old schmuck that spent the last 7 years trying to figure this whole thing out, documenting my mistakes.
Yeah,
and
but
sharing
what
them
do I know? I don't sell
publicly so that
games.
hopefully you guys don't
I'm
have
just
to screw
talking.
up in the hundreds of ways that I have.
Entertainment,
Please do bear
man.
in mind, as I always say, I am not smarter than you. So number 1, don't panic. This one's pretty uncontroversial. People are rarely served by panicking, so I found that it actually really helped me to write out all of my thoughts on the issue and organize them into a video, and I actually feel a lot better about it now than I did when I initially heard the news, which was a little bit of a gut punch. Number 2 is a bit more tactical, and I'll go ahead and bring you guys with me for this one. We'll go on a little field trip. It is double down on hardware. This is something that I think is very attainable for most people that are in the video game space, because almost all the time, if you're buying collections, you're at least going to have the opportunity to deal not only with the games, but also with the controllers and the accessories and the miscellaneous consoles as we have on this back wall, which for the longest time I was very
Bro, how much that GameCube going for, bro? How much that say, bro?
Is very resistant to, mostly because it takes a heck of a lot more work. But the really nice thing about being good at consoles, controllers, and accessories is that even in a fully digital world, people will still need all of these things just as much as they ever have. And so while the demand for everything in these stacks is, I think, likely to decrease over time, especially as my generation that is most nostalgic for the PS2 starts to age up and out of their prime buying years, although maybe that's not even, maybe that's a faulty assumption, because my grandpa, up until his dying day, was collecting coins and hats and Gatorade merchandise and pocket knives. So maybe I'll be on my deathbed saying, hey, give me a copy of Shadow of the Colossus.
That's what's gonna happen, because they want you to own nothing and be happy. Look, this is just a microcosm of the society we live in. How people can't buy houses. How since people can't buy houses, they go and splurge on Labubus and Lamumus and Funkos and all types of bull crap that they don't need. Vacation here, vacation there, trinket here, trinket there, right? So since we live in that society, I can't see this going downward any if they really was to remove physical media. I just can't see physical games losing value. I could only see it going up because games are something that people hold near and dear to their heart, right? And they will shovel out some tokens to get some games. It is what it is.
But regardless of whatever happens to the market for physical video
And not
games,
everybody wants to
the
pirate.
ability to find and clean and test and restore
I say you
consoles
go
and
IRI.
controllers, I think is
Where your
far
eye
more
patch, cuz.
digital proof than the physical games business model. The third bit of advice, which I can also speak to.
See them cards. Whew. $400 box, $500 box, $90 box, $100 box. The wildest part for these boxes right here retail for like $25, $30 max. All these top joints right here, right? Maybe 15, 30 though max, bruh. These shits $50. So he bought these shits for $50. If he did get them on release, $50, and the shit shot up to $400, $174, $234. You will own nothing and be happy. This is how they keep getting y'all to own nothing and be happy. I'm telling you.
Experience is diversify into growth categories. It has been so healthy for our business to not just do more on the console and controller side, which I believe we'll be able to do for the PS6 and the PS7 and the PS22, but also to dabble in other collectibles categories that are on more of a bull.
We low key in a trinket epidemic. I just came to the reality of that. It's if you ever heard of like the tulip craze or something like that, like somewhere in Europe, the country, exact country slipped my mind, but somewhere in Europe, you have these people. They went crazy over tulips. Tulips became really, really, really expensive, and due to it being a bubble, when the tulips like nobody cared anymore about the tulips, the prices shot down and people literally sold their houses, sold their whole net worth to get certain type of tulips, get certain quantities of tulips. You can't make this up. This happened in real time, and this might just be like the same thing because a tulip is just a flower and this is just cardboard. So I don't know. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Let's look at this dude. There's more.
So it's finally happening.
We're just gonna take a
The end
peek
of
over
physical
here.
media is here, and it's coming a lot faster than any of us expected. And I know
The Rip Gamer. I just found Cuz channel a couple of days ago before this news came out, and I don't believe in coincidences. So we're here to react, obviously.
this has been a really hard week for all of us. I know it has been for me.
Dude is fucking
somebody that
shredded, though.
collects all of my games physically. I would say that collecting physical items for games for me is almost just as important as the games themselves. I just like having things. I like having things on my shelf that I can share and look at and show people and talk about and own. Own physical things. That is a big deal for me, and it always has been. And I honestly...
Yeah, it's always cool to have a shelf full of games. The thing I always notice about those people, like you go to your cousin's house or your friend's house, like when you were kids, they open the cupboard in the living room, back when we had big box TVs and whatnot. I feel like a real unk right now. But they open up the little cupboard with the big box TV laying over top, and you just see a whole row of games, and they have way more games than you'd ever had, right? And now you just look at them like, do you ever got time to play all this shit? Like, I be having fun with my little, 10 pack of games. I be having a ball. Like, I don't know. So, just a little rant.
wanted to make this video the day that we got the news that Sony was discontinuing the PlayStation disc production as of January 2028. But when I first got that news, I realized that I was going through the 5 stages of grief. I was initially in absolute denial, which I think a lot of people were. I think a lot of people read that headline and thought, wow, it's not April 1st, so what is going on? I think a lot of us gamers that grew up with video games and remember how video games used to be have all been looking at each other this week and just feeling like,
what are we holding on to, Sam?
but the reason I waited to make this video
Games
is
used
because
to
I
hit
realized how
different.
upset I was initially when I saw that announcement. And if you ask me,
There's some good in this world, Mr. Fertile. And it's worth fighting for.
so now I am going to talk a little bit about how that announcement affected me and my collector brain, what I think this means for the gaming industry going forward, and more importantly, how I'm going to continue to enjoy my hobby for the foreseeable future. Because I think that is the most important discussion to be had right now, and that is the entire purpose of this channel. Now really
Gotta
quick,
rain
if you're
like
new here,
shit.
make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you enjoy this video at all, make sure you hit that thumbs up button below. Now, let's get into it. Wednesday morning when I saw the
Hey,
announcement
same
that-
here, man. You heard, cuz. Say advice. Hey, I don't even gotta repeat the words. He just said it for me.
PlayStation was going to discontinue disc production in 2028. Again, I thought it was a joke. I thought that we would have at least one more generation of physical games, even if they weren't as plentiful as they are right now. I know that for myself, I still buy all my games physically. I have never subscribed to PlayStation Plus, and the only tempting thing about that for me is the fact that there are cloud saves. I really don't like this
The
era
Max
that we're
from
going
Zelda.
into of subscription service models.
I could tell dude really likes Zelda though. Sheesh. He got the Master Sword. He got the painting right there. Zelda. Sneaky.
When I get on this topic, it is very easy for me to go down a dark rabbit hole where I talk about how this affects media and also just culture in general, but I promise you guys I'm going to try my best to not do that too much. Now I do understand that there are a lot of people, even people here in this community on this channel, that buy all their games digitally. And I'm not judging you for that. I'm certainly not one to ever have a conversation with somebody that says they buy their games digitally. I would never tell you that you're wrong for that. Some people don't have the room to display things. Some people just don't care. I get that. But for those of us that are collectors, I think this hit our brains the hardest because all of a sudden, our collection feels fragmented. Like when I think
I'm gonna
about
be honest. Most of my games are digital. But it's only cause I'm such like the only games I get physical though are games I really enjoy or like I really care for. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Zelda, I got that physical, or Pokemon, or like Madden, or like Donkey Kong, I got that physical. But other than that, I'd rather wait for sales. I wait for very aggressive sales. If I could get the aggressive sale physically, I'd get it physically. But if not digitally, I'm the type I'm cool on waiting for games. But if it's something like GTA 6 when it comes out, if it's like out of stock physically, like those instances, or if I don't feel like going to the store or rushing to the store, unless people are accustomed to just ordering the game straight out or like on the market, down digital, just get it there. You could play it midnight on release. That's how they get you, man. But if they really pull this shit, I'm gonna have to go straight physical. I'm gonna have to have a little row of games like how Cuz got. Not this aggressive, but I'm gonna have a little cubby, you know. Show the guys, show the dudes, be like, yeah, man, I got some games. So let me chill.
PlayStation 5 collection and how it is entirely physical. It doesn't make logical sense in my brain that I would then have other games that are digital. Every time a game is released that is only digital, it really does mess with me a lot. And there are games that I've purchased that are digital games. Oblivion Remastered, most recently, for example, there was no physical edition of that game.
Hey, that's on
And
Switch
I really
too.
love Oblivion. I do still have my original copy of Oblivion on the Xbox 360, so that's kind of how I justified it. But going forward, knowing that the games that are coming out literally just don't exist other than on that marketplace, it just makes me feel terrible. It makes my skin itch. That is the best way I can describe it as a collector with some legitimate OCD tendencies. I would then describe the next stage of grief for me to be something like bargaining, because the next thing I wanted to do was go out and buy every physical game that wasn't currently in my library. I all of a sudden was scouring eBay for games that I had maybe been putting off for years because all of a sudden I realized that these things are even more finite now than ever before. And if I don't buy them, maybe someone else will. In my last video, I talked about FOMO and how much it's affecting our ability to enjoy the hobby, to enjoy games, because we're always projecting out into the future. Where I realized this is just another form of FOMO that I think a lot of us collectors have experienced. Because let's be honest, if a game is really that important to us, if we're truly that passionate about a series or genre or console, chances are we've already added it to our collection. There might be a few holy grails, like for me, I really want Parasite Eve 2 in my collection, but there's a reason I haven't gone out and bought that yet, because I have other horror games in my library that I still haven't gotten to, and I know that Parasite Eve will always be there. It might be a little more expensive, it might not be, time will tell. But if I go and I buy all of those games right now, I realize that I'm just engaging with an older version of my brain that kind of got over that already. I'm not gonna lie though, it is extremely tempting. And all of a sudden, all those older consoles look even more tantalizing than they did before. I do all of a sudden feel like I really want to buy a Dreamcast, which is one console I played growing up, but still don't.
Seeing this shirt make me want a God of War shirt. Like one of them, like a God of War shirt, but with like the PS2 case cover on there. Or like Ratchet and Clank. Yeah, Ratchet and Clank. Or Jack and Daxter. That would be pretty fire.
And I think that going forward, that will be the next console that I buy games for, is the Dreamcast, because I've always thought the box art just looked really cool. But I don't need to go on eBay and buy that right now. I know that for myself, I can go down a completely different rabbit hole when I start browsing online for retro games on eBay or Mercari or what have you, and I really just don't think that's when I enjoy collecting the most. I think I'm going to try to go in person to places like GameStop, because I think in 10 years GameStop will feel a lot like Blockbuster does to us now, and also video game conventions and retro stores. Again, I'm not rushing out to do this, but when I go through a city that has a retro store, I'm going to stop there, and if I see something I like, I'm going to pick it up. I'm not going to try to buy everything in the store. I'm going to try to make conversations with the people when I see them in real life. And when I go to video game conventions, I'm going to try to make connections with other collectors while I'm there. Because that is the part of this hobby that I love the most, is my connections with other people, my connections with physical things and real humans. That is the thing that I'm worried about being taken from me the most, and that is how I'm going to engage with collecting this year and the years after going forward. And I'm going to continue to do that, just like I have been for years. And honestly, it's going to be great. And then I would describe the next stage of grief to be something like acceptance, because I realized that the PlayStation 5 generation, at least in the eyes of my collector brain, is in fact coming to an end. But that does make it more akin to something like the PlayStation 2 library, which feels really fun to collect for. Again, to paraphrase myself from my last video, I talked about how in older generations there are so many already good games available to us that we don't necessarily need to rely on the video game industry or what it's doing to enjoy our hobby. Cherry picking.
They about to make the real gamers, the hardcore gamers, revert, go back to the PlayStation 1. And I could really see that. If they really do take away physical media, yeah. The hardcore people, they're going to go get DVD players. They're going to go get Blu-ray players. Some people are even going to go get VHS tapes. VHS players. They're gonna go get PS2s, Ataris, all types of crap, and they will be playing that shit on the physical with red, white, and yellow cords dangling out the back of their TV. I'm telling you.
Libraries is actually really fun. Walking into a retro video game store and recognizing a title that maybe someone talked to you about over the years is really cool, and picking one of those games up and still feeling that sense of wonder that we had back when we were kids enjoying this hobby to the fullest, that is still a thing that is possible to do today. But I don't think that is possible if we're all scouring the internet and trying our best to buy every single game just in case we need it. I think that is the part of our brain that is actively making this hobby less enjoyable. And I can only speak for myself, but at least for me, that's kind of how it's worked over the years. So I spent the next couple days working out extra hard and trying to diffuse my anger, and then coming back home and looking around at my video game library and appreciating it more than ever before.
about to
Because
start
again, when I think about
storming.
my video game backlog, I don't think about a task that
Damn.
needs to be completed. And I always knew that a day would come when what was going on in the video game industry would no longer coincide with how I want to enjoy my hobby. So now I realize that I have all of these games on the shelf, some of which have never been opened. And I'm in a very blessed position to still enjoy these games. I think as video game collectors, even if
But
you're
what's the point of having the game if it's not open? If you're really a game connoisseur, or he's just really a collector. Like you just like to marvel at it in the case and shit. You one of them.
is
Ain't nothing wrong with
I
it. I'm
think a
just
lot of what
saying.
we've been doing over the years is kind of creating this sense of insulation, even if it's a subconscious thing. Why amass this massive library of games that we objectively don't have enough time in the day to play, if not for the fact that on some level we've always been afraid that the video game industry would pivot in a direction that would no longer interest us? If the video game industry all of a sudden starts creating games that we are unable to enjoy, we now have this massive selection of things already available to us. That was the entire point of this journey, right? So, in some sense, yes, it's a bummer. And yes, if video games going forward are all digital, I'm not really sure what that's going to mean for my purchasing power and where I'm going to put my dollars. I do have a little bit of an idea, which is kind of
He's
like
gonna
where I
revert.
want to leave you with. But right now,
He's gonna go backwards.
I do feel like I'm in a better position than a lot of people. And I think a lot of people that watch me here, a lot of you guys in this community that are so passionate about games, instead of being so bummed out about this, not to sit here and tell people that you told them so, not to be braggadocious about the fact that, wow, you have all these games. It's a good thing you collected these games, but just kind of quietly sitting with ourselves and appreciating the fact that, yeah, we weren't crazy. Yes, this is a very unscripted video, and I realize I'm very
Yeah, he is looking sweet right now though, cause all these games that most likely will shoot up in price. That's the only if my theory's right. They could shoot down in price, and pirating shoots up, and somehow, some way, people are just big on piracy. I could seeing that happen too. You're gonna see people selling video games out the back of the trunk like they did in '05 with movies. They're gonna start selling movies out the back of the trunk too. Back again. We back at it.
I'm drinking cold brew coffee here, so I might sound a little crazy.
Out
but
the
I know
mug.
this makes sense to a lot of you. Now, as far as what I think this means for the video game industry, I personally think the PlayStation 6 is absolutely doomed if PlayStation does not pivot on this decision. Do I think that PlayStation realistically will pivot on this decision, regardless of how loud we are? I don't know. Because if you look around at what they're doing, they've already kind of planned their distribution for the next few years, and it's not looking good. It is easier for them to report back to investors and explain to them why they're taking a heavy loss on it while they're selling it for $1,000. The components for that device will likely cost more than $1,000 by the time they're manufacturing that product. That's just where we're at in the tech industry. If they have everybody tied to that same marketplace and they're getting more profit for their software, then again, the investors will be happier. I think that is the major reason they're making this decision and why they feel like they have to kind of pull the plug this early to get us all used to it. Now, I guess that takes a little bit of the blame off of Sony, I guess, because that's a bigger issue than just video games. That just has to do with what's going on with AI and the rest of the tech world, which again, I have to pull myself back because it makes me want to go on an entirely different rant, which is much more dark, but I want to make this a positive video, at least to some extent. But regardless of who's to blame for all of this, I don't think the average consumer is going to buy a $1,000 PlayStation 6. And I don't think it has anything to do with physical media. I simply think that's where we're at in the market of consoles.
Yeah, that's a fact. The average consumer gonna wait until that PlayStation 6 hits sale. You right, buddy. And then if you tell them they gotta pay $80 for every game on that market because Sony took away disc, we're gonna see something special gonna be happening. A lot of things will be changing. You will own nothing and be happy, so they say. It's crazy, but that's all love, y'all. See ya. I'm gonna catch y'all. It's about to storm like shit out here, man.